All right, good morning. It's 10:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome, everyone. This is one theme to rule them all, using starter kits to accelerate your theme development and reduce technical debt. Quick show of hands. Who here is using Drupal 10? Excellent. Who here has used StarterKit? Many fewer people. Have you actually used it just playing around or used it for actual development stuff? I guess I should ask, raise your hand if you've actually used it for real development stuff, not just tinkering. Okay, far fewer. The only theme that I know of right now that implements any of the StarterKit stuff is the core StarterKit tool, or the core StarterKit theme. So this is still something that's fairly new, even though it's been around in core for a bit. My name is Andy Bloom. I work at Lullabot. I'm a senior front-end developer based in the US, in the state of Ohio. If you're familiar with the general shape of the United States, I live a little bit below the one that looks like a mitten and is surrounded by all the water. I am a subsystem maintainer for Olivero, along with Mike Herschel and a number of other people. And I'm also the maintainer of the UIKit theme, which is a theme based on a component framework similar to Bootstrap or Foundation. If you'd like to follow me on any of the social media, all of the things that I am a member of are in social links in the header of my website. I had dressed for the occasion this morning, but it's really hot in here because there's so many bodies in here now, and there were so many here for the previous session. I was also the day one winner of the Drupal 10 Days of Drupal 10 meme contest, and they sent me this lovely, very cozy sweatshirt. And in the spirit of Drupal 10 and the meme party, I have put many in here. But before we get into the talk, I want to give you a bit of a timeline on when I submitted this session and where we are today and what's happened kind of in that period of time. So in August of 2022, I started working on Olivero to implement StarterKit with Olivero so that people could use it as its own starter kit and then build on top of Olivero. One of the things we decided to do with Olivero after seeing what had happened to Bartik was to try to dissuade people from using it as a base theme. When people started using Bartik as a base theme, everything about it kind of became an API, and people were relying on it, and it had to be backwards compatible. And so if you ever tried to put in the views grid, it's not the same as CSS grid, right, for Bartik, until that was added to views later. And everything had to stay just the way it was as CSS was in 2007, whatever year Bartik was. And CSS has progressed quite a ways since then. And so we didn't want Olivero to be locked in time to what the state of CSS was when we got it into core at the end of Drupal 9. So we started implementing StarterKit, and then the work stalled around Christmas of 2022 on tests. And then in April, I had submitted this session thinking, hey, we can talk about this and get people involved in it and maybe get these tests unblocked and get Olivero done, and that'd be great. And then in May, this session was selected and confirmed. And then in June, in Pittsburgh, DrupalCon, there was a ticket opened to kind of refactor how StarterKit was designed, which is cool, but it really meant that what I had submitted was going to have to change. And then on Contrib Day, we started working on that refactoring, and then the work stalled again in June. So now there's 2 tickets for 2 different versions of StarterKit. Both of them stalled. And now here we are, October 19th today. The work that stalled June 18th almost got unstalled before this session, which meant would have been a really fun time redoing these slides. So the state of theming and creating a new theme before StarterKit was kind of a choose-your-own-adventure task. You had, for the most part, 3 options. You could start from scratch, you could use a base theme, or you could do some kind of DIY copy and paste method. And that copy and paste is the one that I know I used for most of my career building new themes. If you're starting from scratch, it's great. You do have a lot of freedom for greenfield development. If you decide, hey, I'd like to try out a new bundler. I've never tried Webpack before. Maybe we can do Webpack. Maybe we can try Vite. We've been doing stuff in Sass, but now we'd like to move to post-CSS. Starting from scratch is a great option because there's nothing there limiting you. You have no constraints. You can choose whatever you want to do starting from scratch. But there are some cons, which is there's a lack of scaffolding. You don't have any support to really boost you into the theme development. and you're going to spend time redeveloping stuff you've already done before. You may want that freedom to do new bundlers, new tools, new whatever, but you may wish, now I need to go back and remember what were all of my regions and how did I have all these accessibility features I built in. So starting from scratch has its pros, but it has its cons. Another option is to use a base theme. And so for many people, Classy was the one. Everybody loved the fact that, oh, everything comes with all these nice default classes and I can just target those and I don't have to add my own. And it brought along its own pros. Your dev time speeds up with a base theme. You get to inherit things like CSS and JavaScript. You get to inherit templates. You get to inherit the theme's screenshot. With some advanced tinkering, you can inherit block placement and templates. You can inherit theme settings. You can inherit the breakpoints and the libraries and hook functionality. There are some things that don't inherit, like the logo in favicon or the regions, color module support when that was still a thing that was in core. Or if you were base theming a core theme, you didn't inherit the core version. And then our third option for creating a new theme, if you didn't want to start from scratch or use the base theming, was to have some custom advanced copy and paste functionality. And this also speeds up your time with some basic scaffolding, and you do have control of the source theme. It's not quite as easy as using a base theme is. In base theming, you just declare a sub-theme and you're done. You do have to go in and you have to copy all the files over, and you have to do some search and replace to replace file names and hook names and all that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest downsides to this was there really wasn't a community standard way to do this. And so if you look at contrib themes, I'm thinking specifically of StarterKit and Foundation right now, both of these themes have their own implementation of this. In UIKit, we wrote a composer script to do this. And in Foundation, they've got a PHP script or a Drush command or something like that that does their version of this. So there's no community standard way to do this until now. Yeah, thank you. That was excellent. I loved that. StarterKit was added as an experimental feature in Drupal 9.3. It's been around a while. And then it reached stable in 10.0, and 10.2 comes out this winter, right? So, I mean, it's been around a bit. But like I said at the start, I don't know of any themes that are actually using the theme generation tool other than the core StarterKit theme. Radix, I'm hearing from the front row. So the StarterKit and theme generation tool, there is a difference between the two of them. StarterKit is the name of the theme that's in core, and the theme generation tool is actually the script that's running from a PHP class. But it brings along some great stuff. It brings along your CSS and your JavaScript and your libraries and templates and theme settings and hook functionality. And I can hear some of you right now going, hold up, how is this different from sub-theming? And so I submit a dramatic reenactment. We have someone coming in that wants to use the Olivero drop-down menus. And so I like that. I will just make a new sub-theme. And so you start talking about this, and somewhere along the line, myself or Mike Herschel maybe, says, Olivero doesn't support sub-theming. And they're like, well, sure it does. Everything supports sub-theming. I just put base theme Olivero in there. And then we say, yeah, it does. You could technically sub-theme Olivero, but now your theme is going to break if we ever make a change to something you're relying on. You should just follow this guide that he has about copying Olivero and making your own version of it instead, which is a brand new version of that advanced copy and paste. It's not the same as UI kits. It's not the same as Foundations. It's its own, here's how to do this. And they say, okay, that's great, but I really wish this was easier. And so now it is with StarterKit. So to fully understand the difference, let's look at them kind of more in depth. With sub-theming, your new theme is perpetually connected to the current state of its base theme. If you make a change to the base theme CSS, that will get inherited by default in your new theme. If that's not something you wish to inherit, it's now your job to correct that and to go back and say, nope, I like the way it was. I've got to override this thing I've inherited. Changes to those base themes then can cause unintended side effects in their sub-themes, and that's okay, right? This might be a solution for you. If you're working on a suite of sites, and for the most part, they're all going to be the same, and you really only need very minor tweaks, this could be a very good solution for you. If you're building a suite of sites for a university, if you're building a suite of sites for a government agency or something like that, a subtheme might be a great solution for you because you want to be able to say, for the most part, these themes should all be very much the same. And when we make the sub-themes inherit new stuff, we'll just handle that because we'd rather have to do very minor overrides rarely rather than a bunch of maintenance on a bunch of different themes. StarterKit, on the other hand, is a snapshot in time of whatever your source theme is. And so as you maintain your StarterKit theme, you can have a version 1.0, and if you make a new sub-theme, for lack of a better term, if you make a new theme from that as its StarterKit at version 1.0, that's now its starting point. So you get to just a snapshot in time, and you're basically forking your theme. And then later, when you have 1.1, you can make a new sub-theme or a new descendant theme, and 1.2 again. If you choose to inherit new stuff, you then have to go back to the source theme and get it. If you're tracking that source theme and you want changes there, you need to go pull that yourself. But you don't inherit new things by default. So your theme will never break if the source theme makes a change. This is a good option for building new themes with just some boilerplate in place, and then you can diverge from there. If you're going to build a bunch of sites that all have very similar foundations, but then go very different directions, this is a good solution for you. So what's StarterKit good for? What features do you always put in your themes? If you're starting from scratch, if you're doing a base theme, if you're doing your advanced copy and paste, what features, think right now, what features do you always start with? Do you always use the same build tooling? Are you always doing the same Sass setup, the same post-CSS setup, Babel, Webpack, any of those? Do you bring in the same libraries? Do you have some upstream third-party dependency that you always depend on? Do you have a design system that you need to pull in and inherit from? Are you always using the same regions? Are you always doing the same template customizations? Do you always have the same kind of hooks that you're putting in there? If you have those things and that you do in every single theme, you have the beginnings of what would make a good StarterKit theme. Remember, the StarterKit isn't what you're going to install at the end of the day for your client. It is just your foundation, and then you say, give me all of that, let me start from it in a very simple way. So how does it work? Well, the easiest way, you just add StarterKit true to your info YAML file. If you do that to any theme today, it is now a StarterKit theme. That works. There are some problems. StarterKit was designed kind of as a one-use tool that eventually was thought of, hey, this could be something the community want to use. Optionally, you can also add a new class to your theme called StarterKit that implements the StarterKit interface. This is fully optional, but that StarterKit interface then gets to define a post-process method where you can do any customized functionality where you get to tack on your own bits of stuff to the end of the script that's copying over that theme. Once you've done that, you run a PHP script on your command line, which is PHP core scripts Drupal generate theme. You give it the custom themes machine name, and then optionally some additional flags to give it a human readable name, a description, a path, and then declaring what StarterKit it's going to use. If you don't provide name, it will just give it the human readable name matching the theme name, the machine name. If you don't give it a description, it just doesn't get one. If you don't provide a path, it defaults to just themes. So if you like to keep your themes separate in custom and contrib, you may want to override that the theme's custom. And if you don't provide a StarterKit source, it defaults to core's StarterKit theme. Once it does that, it opens up the generate theme command in the Drupal core directory and runs the execute function. And so, quick show of hands, how many front-end developers are in here right now? I apologize. Under the hood, what's happening? That script is going to duplicate, it's going to copy recursively the entire file structure of the theme and move it to a temporary directory. In that temporary directory is where it makes all of its modifications, and then it eventually will move it back into your project directory where you've either defined what directory you want it to be in, or in the themes directory. While it's modifying it, the things that happen right now, the version of StarterKit that's in core right now, it renames all of your YAML files. Libraries YAML, info YAML, StarterKit YAML. It's using a regex to find everything that is machine name, star YAML. It renames your .theme file. It will edit your info YAML file very lightly. It doesn't do everything that you would probably expect it to do. And it renames all of your hook names because your hook names have to all start with the project name. And then it will also edit the names of the references to your libraries and all of your twig files. So wherever you're calling attached library, wherever it finds the source themes machine name, it'll put in your new themes machine name. And then it's going to check, does this StarterKit theme implement the StarterKit class? And if it does it have a post-process method? And if it does, run that. And then it's all on you. Whatever you've written in there, that's when your stuff gets to run. Pretty cool. How does this help with technical debt, you may be asking? I'm not going to go super in depth to that because the technical debt that you encounter is probably specific to the kind of stuff that you've been doing. But one thing that the StarterKit tool does do is it will tag your new theme with the source themes version. It's going to look into that info YAML for the version number, and it's going to copy that over. If it's a stable number, that's all it does. It says the source themes machine name, colon, and then the version number. If it's a dev version, so if your StarterKit is at 1.0.0-dev, it will detect that -dev and try to find out what's the commit number of this current source theme. I tried to make this happen, testing out so I can make sure I got a real thing. I was unable to get that commit number to ever appear. What will most likely happen is you'll get your source machine name unknown version. It doesn't even give you the 1.0.0-dev unknown version. It just says unknown. This is something we could maybe fix down the line. So I mentioned we were doing this in Olivero, that we started this work. What's that look like? Well, there's currently a merge request open, number 2996. You can go and look at it if you'd like. There's a bunch of changes, but there's really only two that really matter for anybody in this room. The rest of them are all the test coverage. The first one is the absolute you must do, add StarterKit true to Olivero info YAML. And the second one is adding in that StarterKit interface. If you look at the number of lines added, this is 241 lines of PHP code. And the front-end developers in the room that may not be super comfortable with PHP are going, ha, that's it, I'm out. Most of the stuff that we've done in this 241 lines should be part of whatever the new version of StarterKit will be. But I want to walk you through just this post-process function. Post-process is going to call with a couple of parameters. You get your working directory. That's just a reference to, it's either a reference or a string to wherever that temporary directory is, where we're currently modifying the theme. We get a string of the machine name and the theme name. That's your new themes. Should have looked at this before I started, but yes, I think that's the source. It's either the source themes machine name, theme name, human readable name, or it's the new themes machine name, theme name. I apologize for the ambiguity on that. Secondly, we're going to an update theme info, which is just a function where I've pulled out some stuff to move it elsewhere so that we can kind of just follow what's this post process doing. The theme info is going to fix the update theme info function here is fixing a couple of issues with StarterKit. Right now, it does not unset StarterKit. So if you make a new theme using the StarterKit tool, it's going to duplicate that StarterKit true key into your new themes info YAML. That may or may not be a problem, but it does mean that every StarterKit theme you make is also itself a StarterKit theme. We also unset the package key because if we're duplicating Olivero, the package is core, and your new custom theme is not a core theme. So we want to make sure we pull that out. And then we're also changing the version to 1.0.0 because by default, it's going to inherit whatever that is. For Olivero, it is the all caps string version, which is just inheriting core's version number. You probably don't want your theme to have its version number change when core's does. The next one we do is a remove deletable files function. And earlier we've defined an array of paths that we want to delete. Olivero has a tests directory. We don't need to copy that over for people that want to duplicate Olivero. So we mark that as deletable, and we let the functionality here delete it. We also have a source starterkit.php file, which is where we've implemented that StarterKit interface class. We delete that so that new themes made from Olivero as a StarterKit aren't automatically themselves StarterKits. We also get rid of Olivero's post-update.php, and we get rid of Olivero's readme because we have a different file that we want to make the readme once a new file or a new theme has been made from Olivero. Then we do some find and replace. Gets a little tricky in there, but because what we're doing is we're taking Olivero as the machine name, all lowercase, and Olivero as the human readable name, title case, and that's not always the only two places you see that, because what you will see is the machine name moved from snake case with underscores separating your words into Pascal case if it's ever in a class. So we need to be very careful as we start renaming things. So we are replacing the Pascal case machine name in classes. We're replacing the snake case machine name everywhere, and we're replacing the title case theme name everywhere. The last thing that we do, this will always have to be in Olivero, is getting the build files, because what it's going to do is go and grab core's package JSON and get the ability for you to edit the CSS or the post CSS files and rebuild those for your new theme. So this is what we're doing in Olivero with the currently existing starter kit. And as I mentioned in Pittsburgh, this issue was opened up, that it's just too difficult. We should not be expecting all front-end developers to be PHP experts having to write object-oriented PHP so that they can just make a new theme and override and do some custom functionality. So this popped up. If you're interested in this issue, the node ID is in the bottom, 3364885. So what does a reimagined starter kit look like? Well, like most of the configuration we do in themes, I think a YAML file is probably a pretty good idea. This is what the StarterKit themes YAML would look like. We just make a new StarterKit theme.starterkit.yaml, and we let it handle some of those things that you would expect to see in a proper StarterKit script. If you want to delete stuff, you can just list some paths there. Right now, we're trying to make it so that you could even do globs in those paths if you wanted to. So if you know you want to delete all of my PHP in this one folder, but leave the folder, you should be able to manage that. So a list of files to delete. The no edit key is going to be files that you don't want us to find and replace strings in the contents of. No rename is going to be the files you don't want us to do find and replace in the titles of the files. And then the info is going to be a way to override any info that you have in your source theme. So Olivero, for example, declares a bunch of regions. If we, for whatever reason, said people don't want the sidebar region ever, that it's something that people just never will want, it's only a core thing, we could technically get rid of that from our regions and overwrite a new set of regions for Olivero. We're not going to do that, just as an example. But here we've got hidden null, because the StarterKit theme, if you open core, is always there, but it's never something you can select. So hidden is set to true there so that you can't see it on the appearance page. We're going to unset that, so when you make a new theme, you don't go wondering why it hasn't appeared yet. StarterKit we remove, and then we set the version, instead of being the core version, to be 1.0.0. What would that look like for Olivero? This next screenshot is faked in DevTools, so ignore the fact that there are 4 line number 2s. But we would be deleting the tests folder, the StarterKit PHP, Olivero post updates, the README, and the StarterKit.yaml file. We would assume that people duplicating Olivero don't want to further duplicate it later. If you do, great. But now you know how to do it by yourself, and you can add that back in. No edit. We don't want people to edit the StarterKit markdown file because it's got the contents of what we're going to put into the README. We don't have anything we don't want to rename, and then we'll unset package, unset StarterKit, and set version to 1.0.0. So, how am I doing on time, Dave? What time are we done in here?
In like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, there's still some stuff that needs work. Currently, we are blocked on 2 things: dependency evaluations for Symfony Finder and File System. Both of those tools are currently in the core dev package, but people that are building themes and that may want to build starter kits will need those tools to exist in core for them, and we don't want to make people have to require core dev. And that also means they don't come in the tarball installations. This is something that, at least in my opinion, I think we need to move into core, so we need Finder and File System. So we currently have blocks on those as being core dependencies. We'll likely need edits to tests, both for StarterKit as well as for Olivero once that's in there. And then the next steps would be to update contrib themes to be using the StarterKit to let them implement their own copy and paste functionality, and at long last have a a standard way for contrib themes to do StarterKit stuff. So it's a very quick presentation. There's not a ton of super in-depth stuff, but if you would like to join us for contrib opportunities, there is mentored contribution tomorrow. If you are a first-timer, you have missed all of the first-time contributor workshops, but you are still welcome to attend the mentored contribution, and then general contrib is ongoing all week long. So thank you. I do appreciate feedback, so if you take a moment to fill out the general conference survey as well as the feedback for this talk, that would be great. And at this time, I'd be happy to take all of your questions.
If you have a question, raise your hand, and I've got a microphone. I can start in the back here if anyone has a question.
We got one in the middle here.
Yep.
Thank you for your presentation. What's with configuration? If I copy this to my own theme, it has to be renamed. And does the theme generator provide this functionality?
At this time, no. The only thing it's going to do is rename your info files, your .theme file, and the contents of those, as well as library references. It's a very basic, very rudimentary script right now. Once we get the updates in, though, it's going to do that find and replace. We're using the Symfony Finder component to look for what are all of the files that have machine name in them, that have theme name in them, and then rename those. And then it's also going to look into all the file contents, find all the files that have machine name in them. And so as long as your config is properly namespaced, it should get updated and then be also properly namespaced for the new theme.
Hi, thank you. What if I make a bug fix in my base theme, my StarterKit theme, and I wanted to propagate to all the generated themes? Can I?
You can. So that's the point of the version numbering in the generator key of the new theme. It will say what was the current state of the source theme when this one was created, but there's no connection between them. There's no way to automatically propagate that, at least using the StarterKit tool itself. You could potentially build something if you wanted to, but right now the idea is that you know the state of the StarterKit when you started. So if you know that there was a bug, a really nasty security bug for whatever reason in your StarterKit that you need to fix, you can look in all of your StarterKit themes and say, oh, well, this one was created before this fix, this one, this one, this one. And so you know which themes at least you need to go double check on. Dave, up here in the front, we've got two.
So by the issue of security bugs, if there is now a security bug in Olivero, for example, and my copied version is behind this, would Drupal also detect this and maybe show me a notice that my copied version might have a security bug in there?
That's a great idea and would be a very welcome issue ticket, I believe. It would be the kind of thing to really... I'm trying to think of the name of the project, that the new core announcements thing. That would be a great use for that, to say, to be able to scan your code base and detect themes that were generated with Olivero before a certain version number and say, hey, there was a security update in Olivero. You should check to make sure this isn't existing in your own code base. As of right now, that's not a thing that exists, but it would be a very good idea. I like that.
Hi. Great work. Thank you for all the work you've put into it. I had a minor issue regarding using StarterKit. The problem was that in Radix, I tried to create a, let's say, Radix StarterKit. I wanted to use that as the starting point, because Radix is a base theme. It inherits and creates the whole subtheme. The problem was when you are trying to create a subtheme, you pass a flag called subtheme and then name of your subtheme. So, for instance, dash dash subtheme, Olivero, for instance, so or any other theme that you have as you want to use as the source. So the problem was that my own Radix subtheme was inside another theme. So I needed to pass a path
So
instead of a theme name.
You've got your StarterKit nested inside of Radix.
So it was a directory.
Yeah, so that's a common pattern right now for the themes that are implementing their own version of StarterKit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that nested version probably has in some way edited the .info YAML file title.
Yeah.
So Drupal doesn't actually know about that theme because it doesn't scan for that info file pattern, whatever it is.
Yep.
And so you can't use that little piece as its own starter kit. You could, in theory, go into the post process and just wipe everything away and bring in everything from your new directory. But at that point, you're kind of fighting against the tool.
Yeah, what I did is like a cheat, so I have a custom drush comments, that copies the starter kit out inside the themes directory, so it's available there, and then run the script,
Right.
and then remove the starter kit from there. So it seems a step extra, but we could have just passed a path, or at least have the possibility or an option to flag a path instead of, well, just a machine name.
Yes. I don't know. I would be willing to hear if other people have this same kind of use case where you want to have a theme nested inside the other one and use that. If that's a common use case, that's something that we can certainly open a ticket on and work on in core. But I don't think that's a pattern that we want to continue. I don't have a great reason for it. It just feels icky to me at the moment.
The reason is that some themes are base themes. So the starter kit, in that case, the subtheme that will be generated needs to inherit it. So inherit a lot of Twig templates, any other libraries and all that. So you don't want to completely copy paste an exact theme the way that Olivero does. I guess you are copying exactly what is.
So Radix is designed to be a base theme. Why would you not want to copy over everything from Radix? What's the purpose for a separate thing inside it?
This is an opinionated theme, of course, at the end of the day. But the reason is that you just want to maybe copy or edit a block out of a twig, not the whole thing. So you don't want to bring all the materials over, and have a lot of files that are never being used. For instance, you have a forum twig file, but your website never has a forum website. But do you really need a forum.twig file in your theme?
The best way, in my opinion, to move forward on that would just be to put the StarterKit true key into the Radix theme, get rid of the StarterKit directory, and let people who are using it as the source theme decide what they do and don't want to keep. Because the existence of a forums twig file, even if you don't use forums, it doesn't matter, right? There's no reason that you shouldn't have a twig file that's never used, besides the fact that it's just there, taking up space.
Yeah, that's really wrong. I disagree, to be honest. So I rather have my active theme clean, and just borrow what I need. So.
Right, but if people are wanting to use Radix as a starter kit, is it up to you to decide what things they do and don't need?
I mean, they can copy over everything in the first place, but
which is what the StarterKit tool does.
Opinionated theme, of course. Otherwise, I'm not saying this is the standard way going forward. So,
right. If they want to use Radix as a base theme, there's nothing that precludes them from also doing that. You can have a theme be both a base theme and a StarterKit source theme. It could be either. And I would say that it is the job of the theme developer for Radix or UIKit or whatever to make it fit as many use cases as it can. And then when people want to use it as a source theme, then they can clean it up in whatever best suits them.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate
it. Hi. So I understand that you don't want your theme to have like changes when your base theme changes suddenly. But what if you're like depending on the Bootstrap theme and you want to start, upgrading the Bootstrap version? I don't really know how this works when you use that as a like a starter.
So if your source theme has dependencies, declared, those dependencies will just be copied over when we duplicate either the info file or in the libraries.yaml file. So if there are dependencies, that will continue to exist. Yeah.
Okay, so then your created theme just depends on like the dependencies of the StarterKit theme, and then your Bootstrap would be updated.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So if for example, you wanted to create a StarterKit theme for your own use that is using Bootstrap as a base theme, and then you can use the sub-theme of Bootstrap as a StarterKit, and then your next theme will also use Bootstrap as its own base theme. It's just a one-to-one copy and paste. The only thing we're changing is all the references to the source theme's human readable name and theme name.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? So Andy, if people have more questions they want to ask, where would they go?
If you have more questions about StarterKit, the issue queue in core, there is a StarterKit component. You can find me on Slack. I don't think there's a StarterKit channel. We could make one if there's a ton of discussion around this. Otherwise, I would probably say the front end channel is probably the best case. So yeah.
And will you be at the contribution room
I will
working
be
on
in
this
the general
tomorrow?
contribution room. Yes. If this gets unblocked, I'll be working on this. Otherwise, I'll be working on Project Browser. But if you have questions, you can find me there. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.